Hey everyone, it's another episode of CinnCine Goes SyFy. I am Sabrina Wood, otherwise known as the Cinnamon Cinephile, and I am here for episode 3, 2, 1, I don't know, 3 of CinnCine Goes SyFy, where I delve into a beloved science fiction film with a wonderful guest. And tonight's film and tonight's guests are aliens with. So if you don't know this show, here's David. David, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate this.
Oh, thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk about this movie.
And I want to tell you, this is not the movie I wanted to talk about because you made me go back into like all the jumps and horrors that I had. I was like, oh no, not aliens. Oh my God. So anyway, if you don't know this movie, I don't know where you've been, but we have a little taste in this trailer coming up. Here you go. Trailer.
You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! Are you? Get on the ready line, Marine! Get some to die! Get on the ready line!
Get your light up here.
Keep back, don't scare her.
Movement! Talk to me, Hudson!
I got signals. I got readings in front and behind.
There's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us.
Get them out of there!
They cut the power.
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals. There's movement all over the place. 5 meters, man. 4.
Aliens. This time, it's war.
Whoa. All right, David, this is all your fault. But first, I have my little card, and I want to just tell people that may not know everything you do, and I don't know who that could be in this chat, but there may be people watching this later that don't know that David Benjamin Tomlinson is an
Linus on Star Trek Discovery.
actor, director, and some time producer, even though we know the story. He has played Lieutenant Linus and several other aliens in Star Trek Discovery. He has also appeared in Queer as Folk, Orphan Black, Designated Survivor, and here he is to talk about Alien, David Benjamin Tomlinson.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh man, you came on our podcast a while ago and we had such a good time talking to you, and we just started talking about movies. And I suggested at that point that I would pay money to see you in a remake of Enemy Mine. And I was like, I need you to take that part over and make that yours. But you said, so when we were doing this, I said, how about talking about Enemy Mine? And you said aliens. So I want to know why aliens and why not alien?
I know,
But
I
it's Aliens that you thought was your favorite film. So tell me why.
um be I have a huge sentimental affection for Aliens because of the way that I experienced the movie, and I think that's what, at the end, that's what really champions the movie for me. Also, how James Cameron, expands on Ripley's journey, and the paces he puts the character through is so compelling. But ultimately, like, Alien is a very austere haunted house movie, and Aliens is a action horror adventure, and so you can't really compare them. It's because they're doing a kind of a different job. But when I saw Aliens, I went with a friend of mine, and we went to the theater.
No.
And the rating system here is different than the States. So when something is restricted here, it means that no one under 18 can get in. Where I think it's restricted in the States, you can get in with someone who's over 18. And
Right.
so my friend, he really wanted to see this movie, and so I was very much a rule follower, and he was a lot more courageous than I was, and he wanted to sneak into this movie. So we bought tickets for something else that was playing at the theater, and we snuck in and sat in the middle of the audience, and it was opening night, and it was packed. And before the movie even started, I was just sitting there waiting, thinking, they're going to catch us. The usher's going to come in and say, you you don't belong here. And the movie started, and the whole crowd was so excited. And after the first big alien encounter under the water cooling towers, I leaned over to my friend. I was so rattled, and I said, "What time is it?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "How much longer do you think this is going to be?" And he's like, "I have no idea." And I said, "I don't think I'm going to make it." I was so shook. I was so rattled. And it was such an amazing journey. And when Ripley came out of the bay door with the power loader, and
Oh man.
I let a noise out of my body. I just screamed this scream. I don't think I've screamed like that since. I remember leaping to my feet, and I keep thinking that would be too much. But then, I've heard at early screenings that people did get on their feet when she came out and said, "Get away from her, you bitch." And I was so dazzled and stimulated and just excited by this moment. The whole movie was such an exciting thrill ride, and I loved seeing it with my friend. And so I think that's for me why it sort of is my favorite of the two. Are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm
Okay.
switching my I am like doing all this electronic work here in the background.
Okay.
You can't believe it. But I heard every word you said. And I'm glad you went through that, because you made me go through this again. I got dragged to this movie by a boyfriend at the time. I don't know who 86. Okay. Sam, if you're listening, and in this, and I had already gone through it with Alien, which I saw with my brother, and I went back for more with this boyfriend. I couldn't believe it, and then now you're doing it to me. That's okay, because I knew where the jumps were this time, and I was okay. But my other question for you is, and I guess the answer is obvious: does this movie stand the test of time after 40 years? Is this still as big a film as it was when it came out in '84?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. The story it tells is still incredibly resonant. Some of its themes are incredibly resonant. Like Ripley's line to Burke when she's like, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage. Like those themes are still very much at play now. And at the heart of Aliens, you have someone who survives a horrific thing, loses her work family, is displaced, gets back to her home, finds out that she's lost her real family, and then is sort of in an effort to sort of like fully recover, she goes to face her worst fear and overcome it. And that is very much a theme that is still very relevant and important today. Like, she's iconic that way as a character.
Yeah, she faces up to the greatest demon, because I watched that scene. I'm like, why would she go back to LV-426? Like, why would you go back there? But she had nothing left. And, you know, this is one of my pet peeves in the movie. When she has the dream and she says, they tell her that she'd been asleep for 57 years. And they never really they just kind of glossed over that. They were like, oh, well, you know, you've been asleep for 57 years. But no, you know, she had nothing. People she knew were dead. Family was dead.
Yeah.
You know, she lost her commission. She was working some, you know, crap job, and she has nightmares, PTSD. She's a mess.
Yeah.
So I guess the only thing she could do was to go back to that planet, which was amazing. Run the numbers. I want to run the numbers for this film. Yeah, you guys are being great. Like, we're just going to keep going through this static here. We're having a horrible rainstorm here in Bethesda, and it's really messing up with the power here. We've got like emergency alerts going. But anyway, this movie cost $18,500,000 to make and grossed $131 million. It's nominated for 2 Oscars. And out of the top 250 movies, it is ranked number 69. And so at this very evening tonight, Sigourney Weaver herself is being feted in Venice, where she's being presented. And I just want to really just wish Sigourney Weaver all the best of the world luck and praise and love. And I hope she's having a great time in Venice tonight, because this is a sister that deserves it. This is a sister that deserves it. I love me some Sigourney Weaver. So just to give you a little background about the movie, I'm talking about this, but James Cameron, and you mentioned a minute ago that you really can't compare Alien and Aliens, because Alien, directed by Ridley Scott, is a much different movie from this one. And there are 2 distinct director styles. But I want to tell you something that's mind-blowing. Alien by Ridley Scott, I mean, it was to me, that was his second feature film. What? And for James Cameron, this was his 3rd movie. I mean, okay, you come out the box and one of you make Alien and the other one of you makes Aliens. And then really goes back and he's like, well, Cameron before this, his second film was Terminator.
Yeah.
So I don't even understand how this happened. He did not go to film school. He was self-taught to be a director. He came up through the craft side of the house. So he was a miniature model maker for the Roger Corman Studios. He was a special effects person. He worked on Escape from New York, another favorite film. He did those special effects. He was an art director. He was a production designer. And then he becomes a director. So that by the time he's taking the reins on Terminator, he knows what's going on. And when he comes into this film, he already has all this on his shoulders that everybody's talking about Alien. And he's going to make a completely different movie. Hi. He comes in and he just says, I'm going to make this. And people have quoted, they've said it almost like, you know, Ridley is British and James is Canadian, but we kind of claim him as American. They said that he Americanized this movie, making it big and loud with the cuts and the big scenes and the things were exploding, and we had the little quiet moments, but it was just like boom, 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 boom. And it was a outward movie, like you were saying. It had a lot of sets, it had action. You felt like aliens were all around you. You were like circling the wagons in this one, whereas in the first one it was very contained. They were on that cargo ship. They were like you said, a haunted house movie. And I actually have that in my notes when I was watching Alien, that this was like Agatha Christie, 10 Little Indians. You were just all trapped in this, getting picked off. Aliens, he just went for it. So what was your favorite thing about the way James Cameron was introducing all of that action? I mean, what did you like about
I think what
this film?
he did was so respectful. He really yes-anded all of the ideas that were at play in the first movie. And I find that sometimes when people do sequels, they just want to sort of regurgitate the same thing in the hopes that people just want to see more of the same. And he was respectful, and he built on what had been established. And there's a deleted scene in the first movie, which I don't think, did it make the director's cut of Alien, of Dallas being cocooned on the Nostromo, and he built on that idea of the hive and the cocooning of the people, and he advanced the mythology of the aliens, and he opened it up and he made it bigger, and also with the character of Ripley and her journey, he continued her story. It wasn't just, oh, now she's at a different place and surprise, there's an alien. It's like he made this very personal story about this woman who is recovering from this event and chooses to face her fears in order to recover. And so she's happening, to the movie. The movie it's not just like she's getting a call from a new crazy person, like any of sort of the slasher movies. So like she's making an active choice to put herself into peril in order to heal. So he shifts gears. He doesn't want to duplicate. He doesn't want to duplicate what Ridley Scott did. He wants to do his own thing. He wants to open the movie up, and he did it beautifully. It's such an emotional story in a way that Ridley's movie isn't. It's got a lot of delicious melodrama, which also speaks to me. And he ups the ante. He introduces the Queen alien, which is one of the most gorgeous puppets ever created for anything. Just madness.
That was a piece of work. 14 team members, 14 puppeteers had to make that thing work. It is animatronics, it's puppetry, it's all this stuff. It's not a man in a suit. The first movie, Alien, did have a man in the suit. You definitely would appreciate that, David.
Yes.
When I asked you, would you rather be Alien or Predator? You said Alien.
I know. I have a thing for aliens now. I've had this amazing experience, and
you would make a great alien.
Oh, thank you.
Oh. Yeah. You would. I could see you just like hiding in that thing with stuff. And like James Cameron comes from the craft side of the house, and so when they showed the suits, the first draft of this film, they were showing them, the uncut, unfinished draft, and one of the suits said, "Oh my God, I can see where all the money went. You spent it on all these sets," and and the people that had made the special effects were really, really happy, because most of the things you see in Aliens are miniatures, and they are special effects. There's only three main big sets in this film. So everything you're high is all done by effects, music, and everything else. So this is an amazing piece of movie making. I love this as much as we talked about Godzilla in a previous episode, where we were talking about the technology that was available and what people did with it. And here's James Cameron, that's just up in the ante, like you said, with the use of special effects here and cinematography, which also was some of the things that made that dropship look like it was coming down on that slippery deck. So anyway, I just love the whole thing. So now I want to talk a little bit more about Sigourney.
Oh, let's talk about Sigourney. I could talk about Sigourney all day. You keep freezing. I'm
James Cameron writes this script with her in mind. Male to a female. Ripley had originally been a male, and they made it a female for Alien, and now here she is. And so, what did you think when she got rid of Tom Skerritt, Dallas, and she's got a new crew
for aliens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I really loved with the writing of Aliens is watching how the character of Ripley comes from this kind of like broken place, and as she goes on this adventure and as she stares down these demons, the men around her start to implode, and she basically steps forward to take a leadership role and take charge, and ultimately she is in charge by the midpoint of the movie. Everyone's looking to her for her strength and her savvy, and also to her experience. So I think it's amazing, and watching the various characters around her, kind of like Gorman, is a total loss as a leader, and Hudson, is like, it's over, man, game over, man. Just an unbelievable, like, this is the other thing, like you mentioned the special effects a moment ago, like for just practical effects, it's one of my, I love practical effects, and watching this movie, there's so much of it is happening. It's happening in camera, a lot of it. It's like the puppetry and the costumes, and it's so good, and the performances are so iconic and singular. Everyone in the cast is so compelling, and it's amazing watching the character of Ripley take charge and be the survivor and rebuild her family, because by the end of the film she has rebuilt a family.
Yes, she sure has. She sure has. And I thought Sigourney did an incredible job with this. She, for the first film, and I'm just giving you more numbers. You're giving me the flavor, David. I'm giving you the numbers. The numbers, she made $35,000 for that first film. And one of the things they say when she comes back, she wasn't asked. They made it sound as if she was being difficult with the contractual process, that she was fighting for her money, and she ended up finally getting them up from $35 million to $1 million for this film, which I said had a budget of 18, so they had money to give her. And the first movie had made all kinds of money. They didn't know this one was going to make 131 million. They could have given her some money in a percentage or whatever, but she had to fight for this. So when you see her in the new, we've got a picture of Sigourney in Aliens, where she is front and center. She is the lead on that call sheet, and I love the way they now put her front and center in this movie. But just to give you an idea, Goldblum makes The Fly, and he got paid $7.5 million. So there was no equality whatsoever with Sigourney taking the lead role in this. And
and that equality still isn't present. I mean, wasn't Cate Blanchett on the steps of the Cannes Film Festival this year talking about this very thing? We're still talking about it, and it's bananas that this is, we're still looking for strong representation and equal pay, and it's not rocket science. It's like,
it's not hard, no, but they fought her tooth and nail to give her $1 million. Yes, $35,000 for the first movie, and I don't know, I don't know how she came up with that number. I don't know what Tom Skerritt got, who played Dallas, but I'm sure it wasn't $35,000. And so I want to talk a little bit about her being the the icon of the female action hero,
Mhm.
and that is what Ellen Ripley ends up being. I mean, there's an AFI poll of the top 100 heroes and villains, and she comes in as number 8, Ellen Ripley. So this was something that in 1984, 20th Century Fox was saying that they wanted this to be the era of the woman's movie. They were already making Julia. They were already making terms of endearment. Not because they were making a big statement about equal rights, but it was just because they thought they would get more butts in the seats if they had a woman in that movie. So she ends up surviving, coming into this one, and now being that action hero, like you said, when she came out in that
The power lifter.
mechanical, the power lifter, people cheered. People got up
People
and
did more
cheered.
than
And
cheer. Like I
you're telling
lost
me
my
right now,
mind.
men and women cheered when she came on.
Well,
So
look, I mean
the
that
action hero, I even think that the image of her in that power lifter was like the beginning or the imprint of the man in the RoboCop suit. RoboCop will come out a little later, and now you've got all these mechanized men. These Iron Man types. So they've got all these guys. We see it in what's that new TV series that's out, where the woman comes out of the vault after 200 years, and you've got these mechanized guys. And when I saw that, I thought this would be like the first time I ever saw anything like that, where something was just like mechanized and was going to come after something, and it's going to, here we go, we're going mono a mono, mana a mana. So no, it's still mono. um but I do want to say, just for you know stop clocking, I will give Ripley and Sigourney Weaver all the props for being listed as the iconic woman's action hero. But I want to go back to Black exploitation films and say that some of the first female action heroes you have were in the 70s, with Pam Grier playing
yes.
Coffee and Pam Grier playing Foxy Brown, which they came out with the machine guns and the double barrel, shotgun, and they were kicking ass and taking names. So even though I would say Ripley broke that glass ceiling, I would say the sisters, including, Grace Jones in View to a Kill, where she
Oh my
played
God. Grace
Mayday.
Jones, period.
Come on. Ripley had some help breaking that ceiling. And then globally, we
100%.
have also coming out in the same year as Ellen Ripley in this movie. We had Michelle Yeoh over in Asia. She starts to break out as a female heroine. So it was a global thing that was starting to happen with these women in these roles. So I just wanted to point that out, because I just think that is just so interesting that you know these sisters were doing it. Emma Peel, everybody, there were all these action women in this thing. So let's talk about the squad, because you mentioned the men around her following her lead. Who was your guy in that squad? I mean, we had Michael O'Brien, we had Bill Paxton, we had a cast of characters in there.
Like, who do I identify with, or who was I rooting for, or like what? How do you mean?
We have we have the chat giving us all the lines.
Like, who did I identify with in the squad? Is that what the question is?
Yeah.
Oh, I think obviously everybody wants to be Hicks or
Yes.
Vasquez. But I'm probably, at the time, struggling with a lot, probably a little bit more Hudson, probably a little bit more anxious, but wanted to be Hicks or Vasquez for sure, and then wanted to be Ripley. I mean, again, like when she comes out in that power loader, as a gay kid who is getting bullied in high school, watching her summon that courage and take on that, it was such a powerful. Sometimes I go there for my courage, or like it sounds silly, but if a dog charges me on the street, I'm always like, come on, just like just like Ripley, because I go to that moment for my courage a lot. I go to that moment. Wow. I go to that moment for my courage, because it's such a, again, there was just something about watching that, and then from where I was in my life and what I was experiencing, it harnessed. This is the example of courage that I needed at that time.
Oh yeah. My favorite scene where it was like that courage, that it was the scene where she just said, well, first she says in earlier in the movie when the sergeant was going down, and the guys were like, we got to go back and get him. The sergeant gets taken, and he's going to get cocooned. And I want to talk about Al Matthews in a minute, who played the sergeant there, the black guy that was chomping on that cigar.
Yeah.
Oh man, he went down. I was like, oh no, the brother's going to get it. Oh, for Pete's sake. Thought he's going to get off the planet, talking all that crap he was talking, but no. So, and she tells them they can't go back. Just like you love the power loader, I love it when she starts strapping those guns together, and she's putting, darts in her pockets and bombs and whatever else. She's just like packing loading for bear to go back and fight that queen and get her little girl. Love that scene. It was just something about it. It was just so, she's ready. I don't care what I got to do. I'm getting my baby girl out of there.
Well, and this is the interesting thing about the character, because in that moment where the sergeant is cocooned, her response is, leave him, he can't be saved. But then when it's Newt, she's going to fight for her family. So she's imperfect. She's thinking about her own concerns, and that's a very human thing, but it's she's making conflicting choices. I think it's really rich as a character. He's so great. The whole look into my eye thing. Again, it's look at this performance that is so perfect, so full of character. It just lives so large.
Oh yeah. And I love that whole maternal thing. I was sorry that the deleted scene from the regular movie, which I think is in the director's cut, where they referenced that Ripley's daughter had died right before they went on the mission, or they were going on the mission, and she gets the message that her daughter, who is now probably older than her because she had been asleep for 57 years, has passed. And so then when she sees Newt, it made more sense that she was going to just take her into her heart. Oh man, just to go back to the sergeant, that was played by Al Matthews, who was a real Vietnam veteran sergeant, and he was the first black man to ever get a field commission to sergeant. So I don't know what he did in that field that day, and I don't think I want to know why he got those sergeant stripes, but he was legitimate. So one of my pet peeves with the squad is that I felt like they didn't feel to me like they were. And I know they had military consultants on. They had Al Matthews right there, so I'm sure that what I was seeing was legitimate. But I just kind of thought that they were just like goofballs when we first met them. And
it's interesting.
Said,
they
you're gonna get your asses kicked when you get to this planet. They had been showed me their stuff, before they got to the planet. But, they were all kind of just like goofing around, and then, shit happens and they're like running and screaming. I was like, well, of course, because you were nuts before you got there.
There's that. I love that exchange on the Sulaco before they go to the planet, where she's brought in for the briefing, and they're all being super casual about it and blowing it off. And she says, I hope you're right. I really do. because one of those things managed to wipe out my whole crew in 24 hours. And it's this, you can see, and then Hicks has this really beautiful exhale of I think he's smoking, and then you can see the seriousness sort of this goofball squad that it's not just going to be it may not be this, like, because they've got that feel of, yeah, we go out and we bust up, they call it a bug hunt, they're just like run of the mill, these things. But then you start to see maybe this is not just a bug hunt, like maybe this is some more gravity, and they seem a little ill-equipped, but they do come together. I mean, when the aliens come and invade that the med lab area where they're working really together to get out of that situation.
They sure were. Oh my God, yeah. But that was only my one little thing, because I love The Expanse, and so you had some scenes in The Expanse where you had these Marines like Bobby working with the crew, who was a corporate crew, like this crew, and you knew all the time who the Marine was. You never thought Bobby was anybody but one of those Marines, and I almost didn't quite get that. I don't know, but they came through at the end. After they had the first attack at the Hive, and they got decimated. Their numbers were decimated, and now we're down to Vasquez and Hudson and Hicks and just a couple of them. They definitely were the Marines at that point. Now they're taking over. They were serious now. Even though Hudson, Bill Paxton, poor man, this is he's so young in this one that he's playing the comic relief.
He's so good.
He was. This is a standout for him. This was a standout. They put his name on a lot of people's lips in Hollywood after Bill Paxton did these scenes with these ad libs that he had. People just loved working with him after this. But Michael Bleen, who plays Corporal Hicks, here he was. He plays Hicks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kyle Reese. And I always wondered why he wasn't a bigger Sadie's than he was. I mean, he did Terminator, he did Aliens, and then he did The Abyss, which they actually lobbied for him to be a Best Supporting Actor. Actually, in this one too, they lobbied for him to be a Best Supporting Actor in Aliens, 20th Century Fox, since he did such a great job. But he was never like the big star after this, and I always
it's hard to know why,
because I thought he was gorgeous, he was handsome. He didn't like to do long shoots because he wanted to stay with his family.
Cool
guy.
He's like, to watch him in The Abyss, where he plays the bad guy and does it so brilliantly. Like there's no trace of Hicks in him at all. Like he's menacing out of the gate, and as Hicks, it's such a gorgeous performance. It's like you believe it, and at the end, I think this exchange is only in the director's cut when she's getting out of the drop ship to go and rescue Newt, and she has this exchange, and he says, "My name's Dwayne," and she says, "Ellen," and they have this beautiful moment where they exchange each other's first names, and it's just watching these two actors pull this off it's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's in the director's cut. Oh yeah, Sigourney said that she was amazed at the sensitivity he brought to this alpha male.
Yeah.
And that I really have not seen too many actors that could pull that off. Well, my other favorite line was when he was showing her how to work the big gun or whatever. He was giving her something, and he goes, "Oh, don't get excited. It's not like I gave you an engagement ring or anything."
Oh no, when he gives her the locator bracelet, bracelet. Yeah. And when he's doing the gun, the exchange is something like, she's like, "Show me the grenade launcher," and he's like, "I don't know if you want to mess with that," and she's like, "I can handle myself," and he's like, "Yeah, I noticed." It is this a little cutesy flirting, but it never feels out of place. He's one of the only men in the movie that treats Ripley as a peer. he treats her as a peer. It's really interesting. Like there's a lot of condescension. I guess the sergeant sees Ripley as one of his squad, but Hicks interacts with Ripley as a peer. He doesn't dismiss her. He takes her seriously.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's listening to her, because when Paul Reiser's character says, we're gonna go do whatever they're gonna do, get the creatures, and she says, no, we're gonna nuke the whole station, and then Paul Reiser calls Hicks a grunt, and then the grunt, she says, yeah, that's what's happening here today. Hicks is on board.
Do you know what's so funny about that scene is, how you can hear the lyrics of a song and you mishear the words, and so you think it's something else. So in that scene, when she says, "I say we take off and nuke the site from orbit," for whatever reason, my teenage brain, when I heard it, thought she said, and this is how I heard it for years, "I say we take off and nuke the site for morbid." And I thought that was some cool, because there's so much great slang and like in the pipe 5x5. There's so much great dialogue that I thought nuke for morbid was just kind of a cool term. And then like, I have this aliens. I don't collect a lot of stuff, but I have this illustrated screenplay. It's like the one thing that I have. Man. And so when I was reading the screenplay, and I'm like, oh wait, she says nuke the site from orbit. Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
That makes more sense.
Nuke the site from orbit. Good Lord. But anyway, yeah. So I was just like, but this is like, I don't know why. I bought this, when it came out, and I will not part with it. It's just, Aliens is the only movie I think I've purchased in all of the formats. I bought it on VHS, I bought it on Blu-ray, I bought it on or DVD, then Blu-ray, and I just picked up the 4K release, which looks gorgeous. I know there's some controversy, but I thought it looked stunning, and it's such a great experience to watch that movie like that.
Yeah, that's when that cinematography and all that. Big screen, to see in the theater. This is one that you need to see in a theater. It gets robbed when you see it on a small screen or watching it on a laptop. It's like you don't even know.
No, anytime that there's any kind of an
movie was making.
Whenever there's an anniversary screening, I always like if I see a local theater is doing a screening of it, I will always run out and see it. I've seen this film probably the most of any film, and I to see it on the big screen is a huge joy.
Well, I have to confess that I have not seen this film since I got dragged to it back in the 80s. So, because I get scared. I'm a scaredy cat.
Fair.
Just between you and me, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
I saw, I've seen all the Ripley Alien movies. I've seen all 4 of the. After Ripley was out, I was done. But because I only went for Sigourney, I was just going for Sigourney. That was it. But I want to thank you for making me watch this film again and to do this research, because this is an incredible film. It will move over to my list of movies I love now, from movies I'm afraid of. I'm afraid to
good.
watch for myself.
I mean, it's not without it's not without its terrifying moments, but it is such a great ride. It's a beautiful adventure. It's horrific. But there's so much heart in it. It's, there's some great ideas. There's some amazing villainry. Yeah. It's just, I still get excited watching it. I still get excited.
Yes, that's it. And you still feel everything you felt the first time you watched it. You want to punch Paul Reiser. You know, you
Ugh.
want, you know, you feel so badly when Vasquez goes down. I mean, she goes down hard. I love it.
Nobody wants Vasquez to go
Oh.
down. Nobody, but it's such this, you know, she crawls up and then she realizes it's over, and then Gorman pops out the grenade and they look at each other and they hold hands and they do it. It's heartbreaking. And then that's the explosion that separates Newt from Ripley and sends Newt down the chute, which is also like a horrible twist.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, one funny thing, you know, the scene where you first meet the squad, speaking of great directing, the very first scene is like right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Cameron decided to film that at the end of the shoot
Oh,
because he wanted them to go through and have the camaraderie of making this film, because it's a hard shoot. You know, there's slipping and sliding. There's air, there's, you know, there's gas and whatever, you know, smoke, fumes, all kinds of things going on with them. And so that by the time they got to that sequence where they're now, we're seeing them for the first time, that real camaraderie. And I think that speaks so much of James Cameron to bother to sequence the shoot that way, to actually have his cast, you know, really pal up, so that when you see them on that screen, it comes through that they are real buddies, that they are real band of brothers. You know, they've been through this horrible shoot together.
I think James Cameron is a very emotional director. I think we've all heard stories that he can be difficult and.
Marie says, "I need to see this movie." How? Okay, there's somebody that has. So, we were talking about James Cameron being like a really technician, pretty much, when he does set design, art. You know, he comes from that side of the house. And when I watch this film, you know, I take notes when I'm watching movies. I don't know. Do you do that? I do that. I mean, film reviewers do that. We take notes, and then we watch it again. Okay, it's just me. All right. So I had what I called his visuals are so good that they're emulated in later films, and I had what was watching. And these are pure Sabrina subliminal echoes. But when I saw that hive, I really thought of Far Points when they were inside of the creature and they were walking along in Far Points. It was like the hive. I went right to Far Points, and then there was when the beast was breaking through the door, and Vasquez. And that was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. But I went right back to the scene in Star Trek Next Gen when Worf de-evolved and he was breaking through the door of sickbay to try to get to Troy. I was like, oh my God, they're doing aliens for me. They're doing aliens. And okay, another echo I had when Newt was being cocooned and she was in all of that goopy stuff. I mean, it was right out. Enterprise did it in Vox Sola. And I'll even say that synth hate that Bishop was feeling, you know, Ripley just didn't even want to be around anymore. Android, she was just done. And it reminded me of, you know, the Doctor in Voyager when he was, you know, talking about the other versions of himself. And I it's just like, there's just so much Star Trek and so Star Trek echoes in this movie. I can't even get over it.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about science fiction is it's a lot of big ideas, and sometimes the ideas reference each other, and you see things come around through the different franchises, or gets, you know, an idea gets taken in a different direction because it's a different kind of movie. I think science fiction is super exciting that way.
Absolutely. Sort of like that. It may be they actively, you know, choosing to copy the scene. It just may be, like I said, imprinted on them because you saw this and it doesn't go away. You know, you it doesn't go away. So when you need a scene, you're like, hey, how about if he breaks through the door and the door is gone? You don't know where you're getting it from, but you saw aliens. When you were 8 years old, you saw aliens. That's why you're doing that.
Oh my God. It's a
So,
lot.
all right, here's my last question for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't send this to you earlier, but was Paul Reiser miscast?
No.
I mean, he's the one person in this movie that I just would like to rip.
I think he plays it beautifully. He doesn't seem like everyone else in the movie, and I think that's a very specific choice that Cameron made. He's dressed differently, he behaves differently. We very quickly start to doubt Burke, and Paul Reiser plays him beautifully. He never overplays it. He doesn't underplay it. I think Burke is made to be kind of a what is it, a square peg for a round hole. Like, he isn't like anyone else there because his interests are not for the betterment of the group. His interests are for the betterment of the company, Weyland-Yutani. So it's I love that. I think he's perfect, and I think he should stick out because he shouldn't blend in. We should notice in subtle ways that he's not like everybody else. He's the biggest monster in the movie, you could argue.
Playing it perfectly for me to hate him.
Yeah, 100%. He's the biggest monster in the movie, really, when you think about it. Like, you know, what he's willing to do.
That's true, because he actually let those things out to kill Ripley. I mean, I can't believe anybody would do something that's stupid.
If for his own,
let something else do your dirty work. You didn't even have the nerve to like just shoot it yourself. You know, you're gonna let some animal out.
No, but and so he could get the species back to Earth. Like it's everyone is expendable. His personal gain and corporate gain is what's most important, which I think is why he's a total monster of a character, a great corporate villain. I thought he was brilliant in it.
Okay. All right, then he was not miscast. It was just Sabrina just react.
Yeah, well, you're supposed to hate him. You're supposed to not dig him. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely. I hated him as soon as I saw him. I hated him, and I couldn't believe that she bought anything he said. But like we said, she went back not because she thought they were, going to kill them. She went back because she had to confront her own demons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by confronting her demon, she did want to go back and exterminate the species or exterminate what was going on in the planet, but it was also in an effort to sort of heal herself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right. I think one of the things I said last episode was that, Godzilla was not just a creature feature, and the word creature feature can sometimes have that infer that this is a less, but I think that this film is most definitely a creature feature, and it's an iconic creature feature, and it's a creature feature done to Oscar level performances, and James Cameron shows us what you can really do when you are doing the genre of creature feature. And it's like thumbs up, like little Newt.
Yeah. What he did with the Alien Queen was, again, we've already talked about it, but it was just talk
about it.
Just amazing.
That was a scene. That was an incredible scene. I mean, that whole when the queen like
detached
her little tail, and started coming after Ripley. I lost my mind in there. I lost it. I'm so sorry we're jumping in and out here, David, but it's making it really difficult, but you're hanging with me. Yes, and as I said before, that queen, that scene is worth the entire movie because it's just so iconic. Different from the rendering of the alien in any of the other movies too. I don't think we see the queen again, or do we?
We see a
But
version
that
of
was
her. We see a version of her in Alien Resurrection, I believe, when the Ripley clone, is just before the weird new creature is born. I think we see some sort of. I think they found pieces of the puppet, and it's part of this big. I don't even know what to call it.
I know. What did they do with that thing afterwards? I mean, 14 people to work that thing. It must have been unbelievable. And even the power loader suit. I mean, it is not a metallic or metal thing that
No, there's a guy puppeting it.
Sigourney's in. She's in. They put her in this thing, and it's pretty light.
Yeah, but there's someone behind
And
her.
she had to learn how to work it. But there are people that are working it for her. She's just in it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what really makes
Yeah,
that.
we're just nodding at each other. Yes.
So sorry, it's just like I think there's a lag or something, and it's hard to.
Yeah, I know. It's like crazy, but okay, keep going.
That's what makes that "get away from her, you bitch" moment so thrilling as a performer. So she's got to do the shot where she's in this thing, the door goes up, she's got to take her paces, so it's like someone's working the thing, she's got to hit this mark, she's got to hit the light,
Right.
and remember and keep all of that going and keep the energy, and it's just an incredible moment. And when you think as an actor, everything that she had to facilitate, like don't get distracted by, it's astonishing. Like she's amazing.
Right.
I worked for the TIFF, which is our big film festival in Toronto, for a number of years, and I ran the red carpets, and I managed a venue for a while. And so one year we had Sigourney coming, and when I was running the red carpet, I always wanted the red carpet to go smoothly and be good. But when Sigourney was coming, I was like, this is going to be perfect. This has to be perfect for her. No hiccups, no fuck ups. It's going to be smooth as glass. And it was. I went out of my way to make sure she had a gorgeous red carpet experience. And when she arrived, she got out of the car, and there were an assortment of fans you normally get like outside the red carpet who were waiting for an autograph. And she seemed genuinely surprised that people were there. She just seemed so lovely. And I was, in my small way, have this really, clean, not, this good red carpet experience here. Thank you for everything.
Doesn't let it go to her head.
No, she's amazing.
I love her. Like I said, I'm so happy for her tonight that she's getting this award in Venice.
Mhm.
But all right, so we're gonna wrap this up, and just one last thing I want to say. But one of the things that I love about a science fiction film, here are my 5 things that have to be in a sci-fi to be a classic for me. If you got these 5 things going on, you have made Sabrina happy. And first one, androids, synth beings. Okay, we got Bishop in this one. I was excited. As soon as I see an android, I know, something bad is going to happen, or something happy, something crazy. Second thing I like to see, deep hibernation space travel. That is just the coolest thing to me. I love that concept of getting in something and trusting that this thing is going to wake you up on time. There were so many books we've read where stuff goes wrong. Planet of the Apes, all of it. I was like, why?
I am
It's
not
like going in the holodeck.
I am not up for
Why
it.
go
I
there?
do not. If they're like, it's going to be 4 years and we're going to put you to sleep to get there, I'd be like, I'll read a book. I'm going to stay up. I am not up for it. No.
No. You're not going. Well, they were only sleeping for like 3 weeks. They
Yeah,
it wasn't a
I'll
long
3
haul.
weeks, but
Unfortunately, Ripley's
yeah, no. No.
Which I was like, well, that's kind of like, well, why even bother doing on all that for 3 weeks? I mean, come on now. It took longer to get across the Great Plains in a Calistoga wagon. And come on, you guys were you wimps. Anyway, and then all right, the next thing I love, I love ship porn. I love it. If you're gonna give me an incredible ship, and we
Do
had
it.
that drop ship, I loved it. And then we had that armored vehicle, and I can't believe that these were only miniatures, and they used camera work to make it look like it was big. But I love that. I mean, my girl she broke the axle. And so when we had medical lab and you saw all those aliens inside the canister, the transparent canisters, I was just like, oh, this is going to go so wrong. They're still alive. They're sucking on the glass. Get out of there. And then my final thing that if you got this in a movie, you have got Sabrina, is a flamethrower. And the Sarge just took out that little head busted out of that poor woman that was cocooned, and he was like, "Get the flamethrower!" It's like my favorite line. Oh, okay. So I've been looking for an elf quest. So everyone that knows me, they know we're watching Elf Quest on our other show, Two Moons and a Mic, and I'm looking for an Elf Quest name, and I think I just came up with it. My name is now Flamethrower. All right, somebody
Love
write it
it.
down. That's
Love
going
it.
to be
Love
my
it.
Elf Quest name is Flamethrower.
Nice.
Oh man, I loved it when the Sarge pulled out that flamethrower. I mean, I was just like cheering like I don't know what, man. I love a good flamethrower. So anyway, that's our show. That is Aliens. Thank you so much. But we're going to do the next little segment here that we have. David, you have to stick around for this.
I will,
It
but
is
can I say one thing?
Well, you sure can.
I love this movie so much because of my experience of seeing it in a packed theater and everyone screaming and yelling, and just even as we've been chatting and seeing all of the people, the viewers who have been like posting their favorite lines from the movie. That's exactly like, thank you to everyone for posting your favorite lines. It's like we have this shared experience of this movie. Like it speaks to so many of us, and I love the sort of community of people who love this movie. So I've just been enjoying the comments.
There's
So
a lot
thank
of
you
them
to
here
everyone
tonight.
for that. Yeah.
Thank you for sticking around through all of the glitches in the audio here too, and the timing. So yeah. So, thank you so much. I mean, I really do. Again, I like for the third time, I want to thank you for making me watch this film again. I really, it was just a matter of being too scared to deal, which, like you say, is exactly what was supposed to happen. You thought you weren't going to make it through the original seeding of that movie. And I mean, I thought I was going to die in that thing. I really didn't think I could take being that scared anymore. When that queen came out, I was just done. I was done. So, Derek, look into my eye.
Oh, look into
All
my
right.
eyes. So good.
So here we go. We have a little segment on the this show called 6 Degrees to Star Trek. Yeah, I am going to get any sci-fi movie that I talk about, I'm going to get it in 6 degrees back to Star Trek. And you know I'm the girl to do it. But
There's no one
actually,
better.
this movie is pretty... All right, here we go. This movie actually is pretty simple to do because... So here we go. First degree, we have Alien, the movie with Sigourney Weaver. 2, Sigourney Weaver's real name is Susan, and she took the name Sigourney after she read the book The Great Gatsby, which has a character named Sigourney in it. So that takes us to 3, The Great Gatsby, which was made into a film 5 times. Now, I always thought A Star is Born was the movie that had the most remakes with 4 versions of A Star is Born, but The Great Gatsby has 5. And I love this book and I love this movie. Starts with 1926 with Warner Baxter. It goes to 1949 with Alan Ladd, whose son, Alan Ladd Jr., is the producer of Aliens, but that's a side note. And then we go to 1974 with Robert Redford. It's almost like I got these glitches timed now. Robert Redford is my guy. And then we go to like 2000 with this guy named Toby Stevens. I never even heard of this Great Gatsby version. I don't even know where this came from, but it's a legit movie. And then we finish it up with Leonardo DiCaprio playing in the 2013 version, which is the best one, I think. But we're going to go back to 1974 and Robert Redford, because also in that movie, and she is our step number 4, is Lois Chiles. Lois Chiles was in The Great Gatsby. She's also in Moonraker, where she plays Holly Goodhead. I had to look at Moonraker. That also in Moonraker is a man named Walter Gotell. Walter Gotell, you will know because he is always the KGB General Gogol or whatever. He's in all of the Roger Moore, James Bond era movies. He's in everything. And plus this actor is in Sink the Bismarck, The African Queen, Guns of Navarone. He was back in the day, if you needed a Nazi or if you needed a Russian, Walter Gotell. So Walter Gotell then makes a little episode for a franchise called Star Trek Next Generation. And he is in the episode Home Soil, where he plays the director of the terraformers when Picard comes to the planet and says, I want to make sure there's no life on this planet. And the director, Arthur Gotell, being that guy, he says, oh, no, there's no life here. And then the next thing you know, the lasers are going crazy and Data almost gets killed and everything's going, and they got this crystalline entity growing in the sick bay. It was crazy. But that is Walter Gotell. And I have brought you to the 6th degree. Yes. We have made it all the way from Aliens to Star Trek, The Next Generation, Home Soil, and I've given you a whole lot of movies in there that you need to watch to the, as extra. So, David, can you tell us where anyone can find you to continue this conversation about aliens if they would like to?
Oh, yes. My handle on Instagram and Twitter is at Dav Ben Tom, the first 3 letters of each of my names.
Okay, and you can reach me at CinnCine.com. That's CinnCine.com. Or you can on Instagram, I am Sabrina_Wood, and Sabrina is spelled with no bloody A in the beginning and no bloody S on the end of wood. So that's our show for tonight. Our next show is going to be Children of Men. Now, this is a very intellectual.
So good.
Don't you love this? And who better to help me with this one than Brandon Schultz from the Star Trek Discovery Writers Room himself. Yes, Mr. Schultz is going to come and break down Children of Men with me. So, David, I'm gonna put everybody out of their misery with this technology I have here. Thank you so much for being here. I so enjoyed listening to you talk about aliens. I wanted to do this. And I mean, really, you don't know how much this means to me that I now have this movie out of my, I'm scared to death and I'm never going to watch it again.
I love that you watched it again, and I'm love that we could have this conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
This was great. Thank you. All right. And that's our show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.